Hello, English 201 class. I'm Jonah, and for my critical theory presentation, I'll be presenting on the connection between literature and open and enclosed spaces, and how it applies to me to The House of Fame by Geoffrey Chaucer. First, we were all given 3 quotes from our professor to pick from. I chose the third from The Poetic Space by Gaston Bachelard, and it goes, "By means of poetic language, waves of newness flow over the surface of being, and language bears within itself the dialects of open and closed. Through meaning, it encloses, while through poetic expression, it opens up." And the way I've decided to analyze and paraphrase and decipher the quote is I'll analyze each quote, give an application, I'll analyze each part of the quote and give an application right after. So the first part, it goes, "By means of poetic language, waves of newness flow over the surface of being." This means through the language of poetry, whether it be audible or written, a new understanding of the world is perceived by the reader. And this really, for me, applies to the way it sounds and the newness just a new feel that can bring. And for application, especially to the House of Fame, when reading it, at first I didn't really take time to enjoy the Middle English language it was written in. So at first, I just kind of read over it, tried to get the understanding, didn't really get it too much. Went to somewhere that had a translated version, read that, got a better understanding, and then went about writing about the House of Fame in forum posts and stuff. But now, reading it aloud, I hear and experience the waves of newness, as Gaston Bachelard would say, of the work instead of trying to avoid the difficult words from the Middle English language. And I may not be able to understand it as well, per se, but in itself, reading it in that old style, I do appreciate the rhyme scheme that Chaucer did use, and I also appreciate the Middle English language a lot more. The second sentence in this quote is how I analyze it, and here it is. "And language bears within itself the dialects of open and closed." This part of the quote, to me, refers to both the style and the content of the writing, and how it can be open and closed. Being open and closed or closed dialect affects how a poem is understood, and therefore how the reader views parts of reality itself, especially realities within the poem. And this really comes down to, for me, the open and closed spaces in the poem itself. So, say enclosed space would be inside of a structure, and open space would be, especially in House of Fame, out in the natural part of the dream, or in the sky when he is with the eagle. Here's the application. The House of Fame contains a main type of dream space, an open space, and enclosed space, which I just explained. Open space is out, not enclosed by a structure, and obviously enclosed space would be inside of a structure. In Chaucer's dream poem, when he's in an open space, the future of the poem is open, and it does not follow a predictable plot pattern, but rather is free-flowing. I noticed this when you find the eagle. You have no idea what's going to happen really next, and you're waiting to see what happens. But the opposite is true when an area is an enclosed space. I see that the story follows a more predictable pattern, and I can be seen when he's inside the house, and you read that he's observing, the narrator is observing all these things, and you can already feel that he's kind of closed off to to it, especially in the House of Fame when everyone's trying to become famous and like, are you here for that? And he said, no, I'm not. It's not what I'm here for. And it kind of closes off like that. The last part of the quote, the third sentence, goes through meaning, it encloses, while through poetic expression, it opens up. And the way I paraphrase and analyze this quote goes on to explain that when a person understands the meaning of the openness of a poem, actually, when a person understands the meaning, the openness of the poem is closed and taken away from the flow of newness. So this is basically saying, when you give a meaning to a poem that is meant to be just understood in different ways, you give it a one meaning, something that you consider this is exactly what it's supposed to mean. It takes away from that newness, that the ability to take it for what it is at the moment, instead of, oh, it has to be this, it has to be that. And while the words of the poem themselves create an openness that allows the reader to feel the beauty of the literature, the application. The final sentence, it does not just apply to the House of Fame, but truly to all literature and poetry in general. When a poem is broken down too much, the poem loses its openness and freedom and its beauty, and it becomes stale. To me, it becomes stale and unsavory. And I've seen this happen to me in the past, especially actually in this poem. When I first read it, I tried to, find the meaning, tried to overanalyze it, and taking away from the beauty of the work itself. And I appreciate the work that Chaucer made. Instead, I was just trying to, dissecting it until it's nothing really at all. And application continued. When a poem is read in the poetic expression it's in, the reader, it feels an openness and freedom and joy from it. And that can be definitely said from the House of Fame, when I just read it for what it is instead of getting it translated into something that it's not. It really took away from what it is. I just basically was reading. It felt like I was just reading a summary instead of a beautiful poem. And this feeling cannot be experienced when dissecting and extracting the meaning. It's sometimes better to first just enjoy the reading instead of trying to understand it at first. And that's what I took away from the quote. Thank you for listening to my lecture, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.